All right, so let's talk about this really ridiculous term, defund the police. It's a terrible term. Some people do legitimately want to completely defund the police, and that's not going to happen. I don't agree with it. What it does get into, though, is the idea of putting other people in place to assist the police to handle issues that they're not trained for. So I'm going to propose a couple of things here. Some of them might sound a little radical. First, when we're dealing with the police in general, there are multiple different groups that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the officers themselves. We're dealing with the unions. We're dealing with police management. We're, of course, dealing with the public. And ideally, we're dealing with the people that they interact with. Well, those groups all have some conflict with each other, right? Whether it's the unions protecting officers, whether it's management looking at officers, whether it's Black Lives Matter, right? There is conflict. I think the important part of policing, and I think most officers would agree, is the idea of serve and protect. But we have to define what that means. And that requires all of those groups getting together and agreeing, right? Starting from a base point that to serve and protect the public is the goal. And then what does that mean? What does that mean for the unions? What does that mean for administration? What does that mean for the officers? And what does that mean for the public? We certainly understand the potential for violence from the police. They are, I'm going to argue, the most lethally trained people in our society. Of course, I've had somebody come back and say, no snipers. Well, snipers don't hang out in our society on a daily basis. And the police are the most equipped to commit violence. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, please don't get me wrong. If we accept that premise, if we accept that the police are the most lethally trained, it means two things. It means that they have to be held to the very highest standard of responsibility, the highest. And it means that they need to understand that level of responsibility that they have for our lives, for your lives. And so on that note, the last thing I'm going to suggest is that if an officer kills someone in the line of duty, whether an accident or whether through a weapon, that they retire. That they are at that moment, not as a penalty, but at that moment, they are retired. And here's why. If you or I kill someone, whether it's deliberate, whether it's an accident, that is impactful. That is going to have an effect on your life. If that happens for a police officer and they are impacted, that is going to affect in some way how they are able to perform their job. And if it doesn't impact them, we do not want them out there on the streets. I don't think it should be a penalty. I think it should be a service to the police officers themselves to not put them in that scenario, in that situation again. If they are the most lethally trained, if they kill someone, then they should be done with that job so that it doesn't happen again.